Okay, so first, if you have a manual car, put it in first gear. In an automatic, just leave it in park, that's fine. And put the handbrake up as tight as possible to make sure it won't roll anywhere. Now, in the boot is your jack, and on the other side should be your tools. Every car is slightly different, so have a look around for these. It's important that you make sure that your car, when you buy it, or before you start driving around, has these, so in the case of emergency you can do it. Now, in my car I have this little block, and I can stick this under the back tyre so that if it does roll while we're working on it, it will stop it. If you're at home, you can just use a big block or a rock, whatever you can find. Now use this tool to get in between the tyre and the hubcap. Push it in so that you can act as a lever to pop the hubcap off. You'll need to do this at the top and the two sides, and maybe a few more times if it's particularly stubborn. Some cars don't have hubcaps, and that's fine, you just skip this step. So once we have our hubcap off, we can now loosen the bolts. We use our lug wrench and the extender in order for us to have more force to get the bolts off. Now, the angle I'm doing it on, I have to push the wrench. I recommend doing the other side. If you're pulling it, you have a lot more force. Some of them will be quite tight. Mine are unfortunately loose, which is a little bit scary, so I'm glad I'm changing the tyre. Now, we do this before we put it on the jack, because once we have it on the jack, we don't want to risk pushing it off and potentially hurting ourselves. Right, now we're going to put the car up on a jack. You'll want this tool here again, and just twist the end of your jack so you can get a bit of height quickly, and pop it under there. I'm pointing at the two parts which you need to look for. Make sure the piece of metal goes in between your jack, and that's fine. Now use your tool through and then keep changing the ends to give you a better leverage. Just find out what's easiest for you. It does take a while to put up. Take your time, and then once it's high enough for you to change the tyre, we will screw the bolts off. Now you can either use the lug wrench again just to wind them off, or you can use your hands like I'm going to. Your hands will get very dirty, so that's up to you. Either way is fine. Now make sure you keep all your bolts together in somewhere where you can find them, because you don't want to have to go looking for them, lose them, buy another one, or drive without any. So I'm just using my foot at the bottom there to make sure the tyre doesn't fall off crooked, and then you'll just be able to lift the tyre off, ready for the new one. Next, you want to grab the tyre and just stick it under the back. This prevents the car from falling on the ground, so if it does fall, it will catch it. So you'll want to go in the back to get your tyre. This little plastic thing holding on, you want to give that a good yank and a wiggle to get that off, and underneath will be the screw. Once we've screwed that off, we'll be able to get our tyre out. Now my tyre is a normal tyre. Some people will have space savers, which will have different circumstances for driving. Most people know that, or you can look that up. That's fine, you're still changing the tyre the same way. Now we can pop it on. So I have a little method for this. If you sit down in front of it, you can use your feet to help you lift it up, and you can also see the holes in order to line them up with a thread. Now just find the right place for that and push it on straight, and then we'll be able to screw on the nuts in order to hold it on the right place. You'll want to put your feet at the base of the tyre to hold it on and free up your hands in order to screw on the nuts. Now you'll want to make sure all of the nuts are screwed on far enough in so that when you put down the tyre, they're not on a weird angle, and make sure they're all in the same length so it sits flat. Just give it a wiggle to check. Now we can take out the flat tyre and let the car down. Use your little tool again in order to do the same and wind it down. I've got the wrong end there, it obviously doesn't fit in the hull. What a blonde. Just like the same way we put the tyre up, we're going to wind it down the other way to put it down. Again, this takes quite a while. Just take your time, and once you get to the end, you can just use your hands to put down for the rest in order to get it out. Now we're going to grab our lug wrench again and the extender, and we need to tighten the bolts as much as possible. This is important because you might risk them coming off while you're driving. Once we have finished doing this, you'll want to go to a mechanic, or if you have someone who has a torque wrench, you'll want them to torque it to the correct level for your car. That'll be in your manual, or you can find that online easily. And then lastly, we'll want to put in a hubcap. If you don't have a hubcap, then you're finished now. And to put on your hubcap, you want to look at where your air is. You'll want to make sure that the holes are in a position where they won't stop the hubcap going on. Thank you for watching my video. I hope it was helpful in changing a tyre, and in future when you're stranded with a flat tyre, you will be able to do it yourself without relying